Number 10. Avenging the Herd. For a hunter, there is no greater satisfaction than getting the kill that you were after, especially if it's one of the big game animals that are out there like elk, bison, or in this case, a buffalo. Enter Claude Kleynhans, a man who went down to South Africa to go hunt buffalo. All in all, a very straightforward thing. To his credit, the big game hunter did exactly what he wanted to do. He shot and killed a buffalo and was about to load it up onto his truck when everything went wrong. Another large male buffalo charged at him from out of the bush and attacked. The giant beast tore the father of three's femoral artery with its horn, and he died quickly at the scene of the attack. In many ways, this is a bit of an irony because it's clear that the buffalo in question, based on all accounts, was part of the dead buffalo's herd. So, much like a certain group of superheroes, it decided to avenge its fallen friend or family member. The other reason we can say that this was an avenging mission was that of victims. He only attacked Claude. Claude was leading a group of other hunters at the time, and yet he was the only one who got attacked by the buffalo. So, let this be a lesson to all the hunters out there in the world. The animals at times know who you are, and they'll strike back if they can find the opportunity. Number 9. Oh deer. Let's talk about one of the most well-known and basic types of hunting out there, deer hunting. While many hunts can be described as mean-spirited, deer hunters are widely accepted for the simple fact that if left unchecked, the deer population could explode, and thus cause a lot of harm to the environment, animals, and people. To be clear though, it's tightly regulated so that poaching doesn't happen. But while it may be accepted, that doesn't mean that the deer are helpless, as Paul J. Smith found out. He was a 62-year-old man who was doing some very simple deer hunting in 2011. And after one event, he called his son to let him know that he had literally gotten into a fight with a deer. Smith described how he was coming down from his tree stand after shooting a deer, only to discover that the animal was still alive and willing to fight to the death. It was so aggressive, despite being injured, that they indeed fought, and Smith had to use a knife to finally kill the deer. Still conscious, he called his son, as noted, and then the park rangers to help get the deer to the station. However, that's when the final twist comes in. It was astonishing to see, but when the rangers arrived, Smith was dead. He was covered in bruises, and it was eventually determined that the fight with the deer led to a kick, opening up his liver. That move caused him to suffer from internal bleeding and took his life. Let that be another lesson for you. Don't approach a wild animal you shot unless you know it's dead. Number 8. The power of the hippo. Depending on where you are in the world, you either think hippos are adorable creatures or they're killing machines. That may seem like quite a difference, but it's all about perception. For much of the world, they have used hippos as mascots for things like children's games and the leads of certain animated movies. But the truth is quite different. Hippos are not as friendly as you might think. In fact, if you actually were to see a hippo up close, it might just be the end of you, like it was for Spencer Tyron. He was in Tanzania, hunting on a river when he let off some shots at targets. This led to multiple things happening at once, not the least of which was some nearby hippos attacking and tipping over his boat, sending him into the water, and then literally biting his head and shoulders off, killing him instantly. Hippos are not to be trifled with. It was truly a gruesome affair, and that's hardly the first time that a hippo has attacked and bit someone in half because they felt irked. Hippos are infamous for having hair-trigger tempers, and that means that anyone and everyone who is near them at any point in time should be careful. You know, unless you want to feed a hungry, hungry hippo. Number 7. Shake, rattle, and die. One of the things that can't be said enough about the wildlife of our world is that some of the biggest dangers around aren't the ones that are the most easily visible. Insects and spiders can kill you with bites that you don't even recognize at first. Creatures like crocodiles lurk in waters that are cloudy enough so they can sneak up on you and ambush you. And then there are snakes. There are all sorts of snakes out there in the world right now that can kill you, but for Dick Rupert, he had a fatal interaction with one of the most infamous snakes of all, the rattlesnake, The 68-year-old was doing some hunting and came out of his tree stand and right into the range of a rattlesnake, one that bit him right on the calf. The only good news at the time was that his grandson was there to help him. After realizing the severity of the situation, the grandson tried to drive Rupert on the back of his ATV to a main road, but Rupert fell off the ATV twice. By the time his grandson managed to drag him to a road, Rupert was unconscious and already falling into cardiac arrest. While he made it to the hospital, it was too late, and he died. Rattlesnakes are in many places in the world, so be mindful if you're in their range. Have you ever been bitten by a rattlesnake or some other snake? Or anyone you know? What happened? Tell me the story in the comments section below. And of course, remember to subscribe to The Biggest for more intense videos just like this one. Number 6. BEAR-TER believe it. You have to be a special kind of brave to want to hunt bears. That's because bears are by and large one of the biggest and most dangerous game out there in the world today. They're big, aren't easy to take down, can run faster than most people think, and when they're mad at you, you're going to know it. Steven Stevenson, yes, that was his real name, and friend Ty Bell were off hunting black bears one day when they came upon what they thought was one. As it turned out, it was a grizzly, but they didn't realize that, so they took aim and shot it. Unfortunately for them, the bear was still alive and ran away. Being as foolish as they were, they raced after the bear so they could claim their victory. Except the bear was still alive, and now it wanted payback, which it got as the bear went after Stevenson and started to maul him. Bell fired off shots to get the bear off of his friend, and soon enough, both Stevenson and the bear were dead. But here's the twist. Stevenson didn't die from the bear, he actually died from the shots that Bell had fired off to kill the bear. There are, of course, lots of lessons to learn from this story, folks. So many things could have gone differently to avoid this outcome, but sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Number 5. Friendly Fire. This is a story about an unlucky hunter named Charles Bruce. He was a volunteer firefighter in Long Island, and one weekend he went and did some hunting with his fellow volunteers. It should have been a good time, but sadly it didn't turn out that way, because on that Saturday he wasn't getting anything and decided to go home. After he left the wooded area, a shot rang out, and it hit him in the head, killing him. The shot came from one of his fellow firefighters, Robert Gerbino. Naturally, the police were called, and he claimed that he had mistaken him for a deer. However, police found his statements troubling and hard to believe given that he couldn't tell the difference between a deer and a human being. Gerbino was charged the following year with criminal negligent homicide. That charge makes a lot of sense, because it does seem rather impossible for a human who walks on 2 legs to be mistaken for a 4-legged animal like a deer. Just saying. What do you think? Was Gerbino negligent, or was it just a tragic accident? Was alcohol involved, and should he be responsible because of that? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Number 4. Buffalo again. There are endless tales of a buffalo going after a hunter, and this one is just as brutal as any other. This time, though, it was in Zimbabwe with Owain Lewis, a hunter who actually worked with a local safari. He was taking a client out into the hunting area when they eventually found themselves looking at a buffalo. They were able to get a shot on it, but the buffalo scampered away. Lewis was a very experienced man when it came to hunting and felt they should track the buffalo down no matter what. That would prove to be a fatal mistake. It took 3 days to find the buffalo, but when they did, it was still alive. So they tried to kill it again and failed. Lewis tried one final time to seek it out and kill it, and when he did, the buffalo rushed him, gored him, and tossed him away like he was nothing, killing him as a result. And when a truly experienced hunter like that goes down, you know that you have to be very careful around big game animals. Number 3. Poachers poached. There are many evils in this world, but one of the biggest ones is the existence of poachers. They are the ones who seek out and kill animals illegally, either for sport or for profit. This is especially true for the animals that have ivory in them, like elephants, as many have been hunted to extinction or near extinction because of the worth of the item. Just in the span of 2 years in Africa, over 100,000 elephants were killed by poachers. That's a horrific number. In 2015, armed poachers on Choke Ranch in southern Kenya shot and killed an elephant on private land. Now, you might be thinking that the other elephants in its pack came and avenged it, but not this time. Rather, it was avenged by the park rangers. These park rangers were armed, and a fight between them and the poachers occurred. Many of the poachers fled, but one was killed in the fight, showing that the park rangers would protect their lands from poachers at all costs. Number 2. We ain't lying. Illegal hunting is always shameful, but sometimes there's a silver lining when the hunters get their comeuppance and justice is served. For example, an African man named Matome Malale. He entered a farm area with some friends and dogs to hunt illegally as the group didn't have licenses to do what they wanted. They were poaching to try to make a quick buck on animals suffering. The joke was on them because at one point during their trip, they were surprise attacked by lions. While many of his colleagues were able to get to shelter, Matome Malale and 2 of his dogs were viciously attacked by the lions and died as they mauled them. Lions are obviously one of the most dangerous creatures, and you don't want to mess with them, as this man showed. And that's also a lesson in not hunting illegally, because when you die in that fashion, few are going to view your death as tragic. Number 1. Wrong move, mate. As most hunters will tell you, if you're hunting an animal, you need to know what the animal is doing or feeling so that you don't find yourself in a bad situation. In the case of Ian Gibson, he seemed to have forgotten that while hunting an elephant with a client. You see, he found a small bull elephant that was in a natural state called must, that made it much more aggressive than normal. It had a surge of testosterone and was ready to kill anything that got in its way. As a result of that, when he got too close, the bull elephant roared out and charged him, and despite having a gun, the elephant trampled and killed him. His client, though, was unharmed by the elephant, but I'm sure the client has learned a valuable and painful lesson about not venturing into the wild parts of the world to hunt the biggest game out there. Thanks for watching, everyone. What did you think of these tales of people who thought they were the dominant force in the wild and then had the tables turned on them? Do you know another tale that would fit perfectly about hunters being hunted? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on The Biggest.